Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at, out of the player's handbook, Fireball in AD&D. This was a really important spell in our campaign, I think in most campaigns, and a pretty controversial one, and I'm going to go into that a little bit as we discuss it. Fireball is a very fun spell. So we're going to take a look at that today in the player's handbook for AD&D. But first I want to do a little personal note. I've had a few comments, and I want to just address them and kind of clear the air a little bit. Some people have noted that I have some involuntary movement of my head and periodically my right hand. They are correct. I do have involuntary movement. It's called essential tremor. It can come from many sources. In my case, it comes from a traumatic brain injury I suffered a lot of years ago. It was an injury that nearly killed me and left me with some lasting enjoyment of a little bit of neurological damage. So I didn't want any rumors, anybody wondering if anything was going on. I had some very nice inquiries as to whether I was okay, and I had some not so nice. So I'm going to go ahead and just lay it to rest. I'm fine. I've been like this for many, many years. As I say, it's essential tremor. It's just something that I live with. The other thing, part to that head injury, is I do get migraines. I am a migraineur, as they're called, one who gets migraines. Although I prefer the term migrainaut, always exploring new avenues of pain and pushing back the boundaries of nausea and light sensitivity. That's me. Migrainaut. It's stupid, I know. It's something I've been living with for decades, and it's just something that I've had to work into my life. The involuntary head movement started about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, and then I have had a few other issues come up too. So I just didn't want any questions about it. I didn't want any speculation going on, because there's been a little bit that there's something wrong. There isn't. This is something that's normal for me and has been for many, many years. I'm sure anybody that met me at Jump Point noticed it. Everybody at Jump Point was very polite. Nobody said anything. When I told my wife I was starting this channel and I wasn't going to address it, I said, nobody will notice. She laughed heartily. She said they're going to notice. She was right. So that's it. It's all it is. It's from an old closed head injury that I suffered many years ago. There's nothing new. There's nothing to be done about it. It's not progressing. It's just part of being alive right now. So everybody who expressed concern, thank you very much. I appreciate your concern, but I'm fine. Other folks who are less than kind, take a look in the mirror. But that's it. So back to the important stuff of today, and that is the Fireball out of Player's Handbook for AD&D. Okay, the Fireball. Great third level spell. A magic user gets it at 5th level for the very first time. I remember it was a long time. I didn't have a magic user that was high enough level to cast this spell until I'd been playing the game for about 2 years. I stayed mostly with fighters when I first started. So here we have Fireball. It's a third level spell, as I said. Range is 10 feet plus 10 feet per level. So at 5th level, which would be when you'd get this, you'd be able to cast this up to a 60-foot range. Duration is instantaneous. Area of effect is a 20-foot radius sphere, so 40 feet across. Verbal and semantic components. Casting time is 3 segments, and saving throw for half. And the explanation is a fireball is an explosive burst of flame, which detonates with a low roar and delivers damage proportionate to the level of the magic user who cast it. A 6-sider for each level of experience of the spellcaster. And then it goes on a note here, which is interesting. It delivers 6x6 fireballs from a wand. A staff delivers 8. And scrolls will deliver anywhere from 5 to 10 dice, depending on the level of the scroll. And that's actually 5 to 10, or if the scroll is higher, it'll be more dice. The burst of the fireball does not expend a considerable amount of pressure, and the burst will generally conform to the shape of the area in which it occurs, thus covering an area equal to its normal spherical volume. The area which is covered by the fireball is a total volume of roughly 33,000 cubic feet, or yards if you're outside. We don't use that 3 for 1 rule. Besides causing damage to creatures, the fireball ignites all combustible materials within its burst radius, and the heat of the fireball will melt soft metals such as gold, copper, silver, etc. Items exposed to the spell's effects must make a saving throw to determine if they are affected. Items with a creature that makes its saving throw are considered as unaffected. So what that means is if there's magic items in the room, there's a magic sword in the room, and I throw a fireball in, the magic sword has to make a saving throw or be destroyed. Also, if I'm carrying a bunch of magic items and I fail my saving throw, all of my items have to save versus the fireball as well. The magic user points his or her finger and speaks the range, distance, and height at which the fireball is to burst. A streak flashes from the pointed digit, and unless it impacts upon a material body prior to attaining the prescribed range, flowers into the fireball. If creatures fail their saving throws, they take full hit point damage from the blast. Those who make saving throws manage to dodge, fall flat, or roll aside, taking 1/2 hit point damage, each and every one within the blast area. The material component of this spell is a tiny ball composed of bat guano or sulfur. So this is a really good spell. This spell sees frequent use at my table. Scarcely a game goes by where we're playing with characters that are eligible to cast the spell that I don't see it at least once. And frankly, it's one of my favorite spells as well. Some of the controversy of this spell was with the explanation up here of the cubic volume of the area that the fire would cover. And this led to a lot of people, and I think that might be how this is meant to be done. I think they meant this by the description, was that if I was in a hallway and I threw this fireball, that the hallway would fill with flame up to the total cubic feet of fire available. Therefore, if it was a 100-foot corridor, it would fill the entire corridor with flame. All 100 feet of the corridor, because it's only a 10 by 10 by 10 area, the flame would just blossom out in all directions to satisfy the volume. And there was even an old Dragon article on that, or sometime around issue 54, that talked about the volume, and the author did all the math and everything as to why it would, but it wouldn't go through a dungeon door because it doesn't exert great pressure, so it won't blow the door off the hinges, that kind of thing. And that led to a lot of controversy in the early days of AD&D because of that argument. Well, if you throw it in the hallway, you're all going to get hit by the fireball. We played it both ways, and I was under DMs that played it where it filled the full volume, so you had to be really, really careful about that. And I think that was what it was intended, but it's not what's stated. And what stopped me, and what rule I go by, is area of effect is a 20-foot radius sphere. That to me means we're done. After 20 feet from the center of the blast, it doesn't go any further. If you're at 22 feet, you may feel a little bit of heat from it, but you're not going to take damage from it. It's what the rule says. So the way I rule it at my table is it's 20 foot. It's exactly 20 feet. So 20-foot radius, so it's 40 foot across. So to that end, we have a lot of DMs who are trying to precisely, dictate it. And here it says you have to say the distance and the height, and you have to do it verbally. So you have to say, 28 feet at 5-foot height. And that's pretty much what we do, but I let the player kind of describe a little bit. But I've had players try to do this precisely where, they're standing at, 22 feet, and they're going to throw it exactly 20 feet from their range. And they can do that. The spell says they can do that. But I try to not let any precision happen with this spell, because let's face it, you can say 22 feet, and the spell, it will go to 22 feet. But it's not going to have precision. So if there's a gold statue or a gold chest just near where the monsters are, but not quite with them, the MU is going to be hard-pressed to figure out exactly what to calculate, where to detonate the fireball to get the creatures that he wants to injure, but not get the chest in it. So it's something that you kind of have to keep in mind when you're DMing this, is that I don't let them get away with precision in that regard. It can be precise as distance from the MU, yes. The other thing it talks about is if it goes to that distance and detonates, unless an intervening body gets in the way. If there are creatures down there moving about, and you say 22 feet at 5-foot height, and at 17 feet or 12 feet, something steps in and hits them in the back of the head, it detonates there. So now you're in the fireball. So these are all interesting things that DMs can kind of vex the players with. And I don't think this is nitpicking at all. I think this is all part of the function of the spell. You can cast this thing at 5th level up to 60 feet. You don't have to put it right there in your own lap. So I just advise that player characters exercise some caution when they do this, and DMs make them be honest. So the other part, the other spell of this is a 7th level spell, which I also love, called Delayed Blast Fireball. And Delayed Blast Fireball is 7th level spell, same range, 10 feet plus 10 per level. Duration is special. Area of effect is 20-foot globe radius. Verbal, semantic, and material components in this one. 7-segment casting time, and you can save and throw for half. This spell creates a fireball with +1 on each of the dice of damage, and it will not release its blast for from 1 segment to 50 segments according to the command upon casting by the magic user. In other respects, the spell is the same as the 3rd level fireball. So in our game, we rule that that's a little pea. It's a small ball about the size of a pea, warm to the touch but not hot, that you can just place and then leave the area. So if you know there's a bunch of monsters coming back to their lair, we've used it this way. A player took one of the peas and set it right underneath a pillow on one of the barracks cots in the center of the room, and as the creatures filed back in, 4 minutes later, it was set to detonate at 5. As soon as they were in the room and the 5 minutes elapsed, it would detonate and be destructive. And this, of course, is 1d6 plus 1 per level. So you're going from 3.5 points of damage average to 4.5 points of damage. That's a significant uptick in damage. And you have to be 14th level to cast this, so it's going to be a minimum 28 points of damage. And of course, it's actually going to be higher than that. So this can be used in a number of different ways. One way we've used it is to take a piece of litter. Player put it just inside a doorway under a piece of litter that was in the dungeon and just set the pea under there. When somebody stepped on it, it detonated it. So it became a little trap. But it's a trap with a time limit. It only lasts for up to 5 minutes. One of my more devious players, this is a particularly annoying big bad evil guy they were dealing with, they managed to get him with a hold monster, and he was held. And they took one of these Delayed Blast Fireballs. This was not a particularly good group. It was mostly neutral. 1 or 2 were evil. And this guy had gone causing them problems. They wanted some vengeance. So they took it, cast it, set it on the table right where he could see it, and left. He couldn't do anything about it. He got to watch it, and then it detonated, and it was all kinds of problems. And, of course, with him being held, he would take full damage, no chance of dodging or anything. So Fireball is a fun spell. Delayed Blast Fireball adds new dimensions to it. You just have to be ready to DM it, and if the MU goofs and puts it in their own lap, you have to make them pay the price for it. One other thing I'm going to show, I'll flip this over so we can see it better, is a little doowacky I got at Adepticon years ago. That's a fireball. That's the blast radius. It's exactly 4 inches from end to end, so the outside is 4 inches. So we use this guy. I have 3 bugbears. Oh, scary bugbears. And they'll be here, and they're going to be facing my magic user. And there's my magic user standing at 30 feet. My magic user is 5 hit dice. There are other players, but here's my magic user. But he's going to be away. This will be 50 foot. So he's going to cast his fireball as the bugbears are coming in. I take the template and I set it over them. Uh-oh, they're all in the blast radius. Even if he's over here a little bit, this guy's still in the blast radius. We play that if you're really in the blast radius at all, then you are in the blast radius. I think Nolzers did something similar to this a few years ago, but I got this one at Adepticon. I think I paid $2 for it. It was just something a guy was selling. So the fireball lands here and detonates. If my guy has 5 hit dice, the fireball is going to detonate for 17 to 18 points of damage, so we'll call it 18. My bugbears are going to have somewhere around 18 points, hit points. What I would do in this case is all 3 would make separate saving throws. So if this guy made his saving throw, whoops, knocked my MU down. If this guy made his saving throw, he would only take 9 points of damage. If this guy failed, he would drop, and if this guy failed, he would drop. Some DMs play, and it's a reasonable thing, that after the fireball, things that were on the person continue to burn and cause extra damage for the next round or two. I have no problem with that really, but it's not something that we generally will do. So now we've, in this encounter, we have had 2 bugbears get laid out, and this one is half damage, half his hit points, so he's coming at this magic user with roughly 9 hit points left to his person, and is probably going to be dropped pretty quickly. Comparing that to a 5th level fighter, a magic user is extremely powerful. And that was always the plan when they designed D&D, was the MU would become exponentially stronger as they went up and would have a lot more versatility than just a sword swinger. And I've always loved that about D&D, and I think that comes out very nicely as you progress the game. Also, we do play the 1st level rules where Fireball continues to level up with you. If you're a 20th level magic user, you're throwing a 20 hit dice Fireball. They changed that in 2nd edition where Fireball would top out at 10 dice, and then you have to take Improved Fireball to continue upward. We never adopted that rule. We still play the 1st edition rule, which I think is a better way to do it. It's a badge of honor to be able to lob that massive Fireball, and why take it away from players? So that's all I've got to say today about Fireball. The magic user wants to be careful where he casts it. He doesn't want to be in his own blast radius. Because he'll take the damage as well. I have personally had a magic user with a ring of fire on, and in a desperate situation, I threw the Fireball at my own feet. I was being surrounded and was about to be beaten physically because I couldn't contend with all the monsters that were coming in on me. So I figured taking roughly a quarter damage from the Fireball was better than taking what the monsters were going to do. So I just threw it at my feet and detonated it and wiped out everything around me. There are some pretty good tactics you can use with this spell. So that's all I've got to say today on page 121. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like and subscribe. Take a look at the Patreon. Got some good stuff there. I'm going to be coming up with some more stuff on the Patreon. Right now I do have some rewards up. So take a look. Anything you do to help support and grow the channel, I would appreciate. That's all I've got today from page 121. I want to thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.